Many of you know the story of Phil Knight, the founder of Nike tennis shoes. He loved running, and he wanted everyone to love and experience running. He worked on those shoes day and night, and they flew off the shelf, and they couldn't keep them in stock. And you know why? Because he believed in what he was selling. He believed that it could change people's lives, and he believed that he could make the world a better place. I want you to know today, I want it to come across today, that I believe in the faith-based volunteer model of care for our families living with Alzheimer's and dementia. It's been said in the old parable, where there's no vision, the people perish. My vision is to include volunteers and our neighbors and our friends. We need to include them in our care. We can't just be in facilities all the time, and we've got to think of new things. Our ministry began with 2 participants and 14 volunteers coming 2 days a week. Well, now, 6 years later, we have 55 families coming a week, 25 participants a day, 15 volunteers a day, 120 volunteers in our pool of just incredible talent. All of these people are scheduled with 1 email per week, 45 slots fill. It's amazing. When I heard Al Power speak for the first time on the theory of well-being, to fill people up with connectedness and security and autonomy and joy, that's what I knew my volunteer army was doing every day. We were filling people up with purpose and joy. You know, our ministry started at First Methodist in Montgomery. We wanted to include everybody from the community. We knew to make a project like this work, we needed corporate sponsors, places of worship, other churches. We're all in this together. We wanted to include everybody. And now, 6 years later, I can say we've got Jewish, Baptist, Buddhist, Methodist, Episcopalian, atheist, gay, straight, black, white. It's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. We are all in this together. It was our Jewish family participant that came into the building, came into the program, and she said, "Why is this not in other cities?" I said, "I don't know." And she said, "Can I take it back to Birmingham? Can we have this model in my city?" And I said, "Well, sure." And we gave them everything we had. She goes back, starts it in her city. Now there's 3 in her city. One particular church has got 80 participants coming a week. You know, the growth happened overnight. They took it back, and now we have 10 programs in 7 cities. And in Atlanta, in July, Respite Atlanta will open. A growing body of research suggests that there are 6 lifestyle choices that can help prevent the devastation of Alzheimer's. Regular exercise, healthy diet, mental stimulation, quality sleep, sleep management, and an active social life. The volunteer model provides all of this, except for sleep, and I know we contribute to that. Just imagine those people at home all day with one person and then getting thrown in a big ministry like this with 30 or 40 people. We help sundowning. We help all the issues that come with this disease. Through this ministry, we're reaching a community of people that have been isolated by this disease, who are losing their identity, and they need a connection to life. God is using these volunteers to hold these families and say, "You are not forgotten. We are here. We are here and ready to serve." Although it's art, music, service projects, we did 1,000 flood kits for the people in Houston. All those things are great. But as I heard Carter Catlett Williams say at my first conference, it's the give and take of being needed by another in the everyday life that makes life worth living. And that's what these volunteers give. They give a group. They give a group of responsibility and purpose and accountability. It's so hard to form these deep relationships when you're working with a staff in a facility, because we all know they've got multiple tasks to get going through the day. They can't take the time to just stop and chat and talk a lot of times. But these volunteers can. They clear their day, they clear their minds, and they give undivided attention for 4 hours a day. What a gift. Really, some of the magic of the program is that there's no labels. When you walk into a respite ministry, there's no different name tags, there's no smocks, there's no uniforms. It's just everybody coming together, just doing the best we can. The atmosphere of respite is that of a continuing education class mixed with a cocktail party. Lots of learning, lots of lectures, lots of lighthearted conversation, and lots of fun. I had one lady come in the first day, and she spent the whole day with us, and she looked around the room, and she said, "Damn, this is just better than AA." And I said, "What?" And she said, "There's no last names, and everybody's just living in the moment." And I said, "You know what? You're right. You're right. I'm going to remember that." They're all just doing the best we can. The best we can. I'm reminded of a story of one of the volunteers. She had lost her husband, and she was in deep grief and deep depression, and she knew she had to get out. And we had just gotten a new participant, Eileen, that had come to us with Lewy body and aphasia, and she could barely verbally talk. But she and this volunteer, BB, they just hit it off. They were the best of friends, and weekly they would gather, and they loved and just participated in everything, and they loved each other. And one night, BB, the volunteer, called, and she was crying. She was just sobbing. And I said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "Daphne, Eileen's husband's called, and her children are flying in from New York and Chicago and California. And they've invited me to Thanksgiving dinner. Is it legal for a volunteer to go to dinner?" And I said, "Of course it is. Are you kidding?" And that became one of our signature stories, because you see, in that very moment, Eileen, who could barely communicate, she had become the volunteer in this relationship. She had brought her skills of empathy and love to this lady, BB, to get her out of grief and depression. You know, I asked my group, what does this group mean to you? What do you think we do during the day? We meet from 10 to 2, and we do a lot of crazy things. And some of the words they threw out were loving, learning, engaging, growing, and doing it all together. One lady just shouted from the back of the room. She said, "It's a marvelous way to live." And that is, it is. You know, you're thinking, what are these volunteers? Why are they so special? What is the big deal? What do they go through to be able to do this daily? My volunteers are boomers that have retired, that have figured out they don't want to play golf and tennis to find their happiness for the next 20 years. My volunteers want to serve. They don't want to be served chicken salad sandwiches. They want to have meaning. They want to grow. They want to grow as a person. So they go through a 4-hour training, and we go through communicating with people with dementia. We go through some role play things that could happen. But mainly, we go through positive language. We remind ourselves, we remind everyone how to be genuine and how to build people up. And we go through phrases like, "Oh, George, could you be the welcome wagon today? I've got a new fella coming in. Could you help me? Could you help me set up for this project? I really appreciate your help today. Thank you for your thoughts. Oh, I missed you last week." It's not medical. It's not medical. It's common sense. Many of my volunteers have said, "You know what? Just going through this training has made me better in my family life. It's made me better in my circle of friends. It's given me the habit of building people up." You know, we don't even want a nurse to run this program. We've got 10 programs, and it's all people like me, just genuine, common sense people that can organize just a little bit. Through the volunteer model, we're educating our communities, friends and families, on how to be better listeners, how to be better encouragers, but most importantly, how to just enjoy being in the presence of your neighbor. My prayer for you today is that you hear something so big and so bold that you'll take it back to your community churches, or you'll go and look in your community to find a church or a place of worship that could do a model like this. You know, what I've learned is the cost is next to nothing. It's almost free because the space is not being used during the week. You just need a part-time director, and we can all just do it in our different ways, the different power leadership in the different areas. There's nothing to it. It's not rocket science. I look around the room and I see a bunch of leaders in the room. And a great leader is anticipatory. Right now, there's over 5 million people diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And in 2050, there'll be over 14 million. Do we really want to attempt to lock up 14 million people? Eden is a great place to figure out we've got to do things differently. We've got to add some different components for beginning and middle stages. You know, at this point in my regular presentation, I throw up a slide of the cast of Cheers. Ty, have you got that picture? You all remember this, right? Sam and Cliff and Norm, Diane and Coach. These are my volunteers. We have got some grumpy ones. We've got some people full of wisdom. We've got some good-looking men and some bossy women. And I don't know about you, but when my mind begins to slow, I want to be with them. I want to be working and coming together at the end of the day and sharing life's ups and downs. It's the relationships. It's the relationships. So I challenge you today to rise up and figure out a way to get the faith-based volunteer model in your community, in your city. And you know what? You can do this in your buildings. Don't be hamstrung by one volunteer story from 17 years ago, 3 administrators ago, and you've written off the volunteer army. Get these people in there, get them trained, and let them help you have relationships in your building. It's the relationships that people are starving for. Thank you.